Hello, everybody, and welcome to the Around the League show. We will talk about a bunch of things that have happened around the league in the MLB. We'll do a little Angels Cleveland recap, and then we'll have a special guest here with Todd Fox. Much more uh, when we start.
Flashy intro. I love it.
Yeah, that reminded me of high school, the way the screens were going all around like that. That was awesome. Welcome to the 12th episode of Around the League. Last week we were out. Of course, we're thinking of Halo Joe and what he's going through at this time. We have, of course, a special guest with the show. You may know him from such HITI shows as the Todd Fox postgame show, the Lone Star Halo podcast, and that song, and many other HITI lives and whatever else. Todd Fox, how the hell are you?
I'm doing good, my friend. Just checking in with you, and privileged to be on the show tonight as we're going to break down some stuff outside of the Angels as well. So a little bit out of my comfort zone, but I still like following the news and baseball in general, and you bring it to the light like nobody else.
Speaking of light, we'll leave that alone. But hey, you paid off the bet, and brightness. Anyway, be sure to watch all the shows here on HITI. I mean, there's a week of shows going on. You have, of course, my show here around the league, but you get the Lone Star Halo, you get the HITI Halo Hot Take Hoedown. Try to save that 5 times.
No kidding.
What else? What else do we have? GM for the day with Rob. He's been filling in for you on the post games and doing very well. Mm-hmm. You two, I think, along with Fernando and Vince, all of you have played the game. So all of you can really dissect and really know what the hell's going on and off the field with these players and why they're struggling or why they're doing well. It's a really good thing. You always mention this too. Different from that other post-game show that you play the nut all the time about. Y'all go to the games or you watch the games. You guys, it's been a while for me, but I'll start going to games soon. You guys know your stuff, and just be sure to watch all the shows here on HITI. Go to social media, YouTube, Facebook, Instagram, TikTok, and X. And, of course, Fernando has question of the day, and a lot of them are really making you think as the season goes along. I mean, some tough questions have to be put out there, and I think you'll get maybe 4 or 5 different answers every comments thread. It's really amazing to see. So, we'll get to the, like you would say, the meat and potatoes of everything. I guess we'll start off with the series recap here of the Angels and, what you call Ohio. It was a weekend series in Ohio, in Cleveland, in which the Angels lost the last 2 of the 3. Mm-hmm. And it felt like offense just was not a thing for the Halos this weekend. They did get a shutout on Friday. Jose Soriano went on the road. He's awesome. Mm-hmm. It's just something about being home. He just cannot. I don't know. He's not getting home cooking or something, or he enjoys room service more than anything. I don't know what the hell it is. Sometimes these players have this, where They're better on the road than at home. There's more distractions maybe when you're home than on the road. Maybe that's a thing. I don't know what it is, but I guess give us some reasons why the Angels lost 2 out of 3 there against the Guardians.
Well, I mean, you have two sinker ball pitchers that pitched in the series with Kwanowitz going today, earlier this morning. Sinker ball pitchers are, just like their pitches up and down, dude. They have to hit their spots to be effective. And Soriano did his through the least amount of pitches. He was hitting the strike zone, was hitting the corners, getting the ground ball outs, and doing his thing. He's not really a strikeout pitcher, but he's a guy that really forces you to go down and try to get something. Like, you have to really beat him with your best stuff when he's on. Same thing with Kwanowitz. He's getting there, but where he messes up is when he can't place that fastball. When he can't place the fastball to set up the sinker and the slider and even the sweeper, he has a tough time with it. So, he didn't get through. He had his worst performance of the year. But if you think about it, James, this rotation has not had to replace or have a spot start for any of these guys. This is the same 5 from the opening day, the only team in the league that's done that so far. And they've only had 3 or 4 bad starts as a team, that meaning the pitcher hasn't gone past the 5th inning or to the 5th inning. So they really had a really nice pitching staff this year. They pitched over their heads. The bullpen's been a little shaky, but it's gotten a little better. I knew they blew game 2. Game 2 is definitely a game they should have won because they were 23-7 prior to losing games where they score over 4 runs. So the importance of scoring 4 runs should be mandatory for this team. I felt that when in game 1, they really got back to some of the basics, which when they were back on the road before they came home, they were more patient. Teams are going to kill you with their best stuff, and the best stuff to get them out over and over was on the outside corner. The Angels started to get a little bit more patient, and then started to also hit the balls that were closer to the outside corner to then try to force the pitchers to go inside or go up or go down, just change direction, right? And it started to work. I don't know what happened after game 2 midway through, but it seemed when Cleveland made that comeback, the Angels' bat stopped. And then also in game 3, it seems like they went back to the same terrible analytics, no adjustments, no game plan other than swing for the fences, and it killed them again. So long story short, if James, if they can just get to a point where they say, okay, we're going to have a game plan for individual players, a different game plan, and then be willing to swallow their pride and say, hey, it's not working through the first 4 innings. Let's switch things up and try to adjust. Until they do that, James, we're going to see a lot of wash, rinse, and repeat.
That's what it seems like. And speaking of wash, I think it was Saturday, he mouthed to, was it Darnard who was starting on Saturday, or O'Hoppe? I can't remember who it was.
It was Darno.
Darno on Saturday. I saw from the dugout, and this was all over social media, where he said, hey, don't F with Jose Ramirez. Walk him. Like, intentionally walk him. Because he's always killed the Angels. Remember, we were at the game, I think it was the home opener, where he hit 3 home runs against the Angels. And it seems like all through his career, he's always killed the Angels. He's always been the guy, and he's a great guy for just taking that hometown discount. Nobody thought he would with Cleveland, but he did. But it always seems like he just owns the Angels. I mean, they try to pitch him different ways, but J-Ram is just amazing. And you don't think he would have all that pop being as short as he is, but he's really, really great. Okay, speaking of pitching, we had unfortunate occurrences with an Angel pitcher and a Guardian pitcher. With Stevenson. What did you see there?
Stevenson, it was one of those things where right away I was telling my dad, because my dad was freaking out. He's like, didn't he just come back from Tommy John? And I was like, dude, I think, and I was texting Rob at the same time. I go, I think that has something to do with sort of the jitters from having all that surgery done, the rehab, the intense rehabilitation to get your arm back and your elbow back into the way it's supposed to be. And then throwing as hard as he does, I think he was more scared than anything. So it was dramatic at that time, but I was like, unless it's something that like popped again, I just don't see it. I was thinking it was either at worst scar tissue a little bit, or maybe a little inflammation, but thankfully it's none of that. It was just forearm tightness, and that comes from could be the adrenaline. It could be still some rawness to his muscle tissue, and that could be affecting his arm and again his joints, the ligaments. They're all connected, man. So whatever happened there, I'm just glad it was a scare. He could have pitched today, but likely we'll see him in Boston.
Okay, Dr. Todd, now describe this to me. On Saturday also, we had Andrew Walters for Cleveland kind of break down and had we thought had a really significant injury, but it turned out it's not as bad for Walters. What was it? It was a right lat strain,
yeah,
but it looked like he ripped something, but it was a significant tear.
Mm-hmm.
But we thought it was going to be way worse. I mean, that just looked awful when someone goes down like that. But he's only on the 15-day IL. Stevenson, I think you said, was day-to-day. That there was a chance he was going to pitch if they needed him today. Now, one thing about Jack Kahanowitz, man, it seemed like you mentioned, he has some good stuff, but he can never really put it together. He probably has one good start every 5 or 6.
He gives you a lot of mediocre starts, and then one bad one, and then he'll give you, like you said, one really good one, because his sinker, when it's on, it's very hard to hit north to south. But then he also has a spin back rate where it goes east to west. So he can get it to move, and it kind of looks like a slider, but it's a sinker on the outside corner, and then it comes in almost like a four-seamer on the inside. So, I mean, he's got some nasty stuff with that sinker. It's just, like you said, putting it together.
I mean, he had that one start against the Dodgers that I don't think any of us will ever forget, because, you guys were doing the live at Brewheim, and I was watching the game. I just couldn't believe what he was doing. He really brought his A game for the A+ against the A+ team. But Kyle Hendricks, man, I don't know where to go from here about him. He's so hard to deal with after a while. Not deal with, but you can't. He'll have one good start every 5 or 6, and they're usually at home too. But he started on Saturday, and you could just tell that he didn't have it. He gave up the 4 runs, and again, he has, the worst sinker in MLB out of everybody. I saw a video on this where his sinker doesn't sink. It just hangs there down the middle of the plate.
Yeah.
And it's only 88 or 86 miles per hour, and it gets killed. It's the worst pitch, I think, maybe in MLB right now, the most hit on, I should say. And it seems like the last 3 years he's really regressed from, when he was with the Cubs to now with the Angels. But it's interesting to note how you mentioned the same 5 have started for the Angels. They haven't had a significant injury to the rotation, knock on wood. And I know Rob went into detail about this on the postgame show today about Kahanowitz, because someone said that he was, dog crap. But, Rob basically smoothed that out and said, he's only 24 years old. He's been asked to come up prematurely because the Angels don't have a farm system, and their AAA is basically AA.
Yeah.
It's just the way it is. They bring up everybody prematurely. Caden Dana twice, and now they've had to send him back down. I don't know if this organization will ever be stable again for the levels in their minor league system. It's just weird to think about that.
It would take a regime change, James, and 2 years into that regime change to start seeing, things being implemented. So you're talking about, there's a time clock on it. It's not going to happen overnight. And to your point, James, even with Hendrick's curveball, I've seen his curveball go as slow as 73 miles per hour. That's like position player throwing. And here's the thing too. Um, Basically the pitching has lived up to, has actually been better than advertised. But with a guy like Hendricks, you got to go into it thinking, okay, we're going to need probably 4 or 5 runs at least in this game.
Yep.
Because Hendricks has shown, like most of these starters, they're going to have a bad inning or two, but then they'll shut it down and they'll give you a chance. And I think all these starters have, because I hate when people rag on Kwanowitz and other guys. They say Soriano's not up to snub. It's like, bro, he's allowed 4 runs in 6 innings. That's a quality start. Whether you like the stat or not, he's kept you in the game to give you some runs. And I think that's the rotation is full with guys that could do that. Hendricks is just the worst one.
Someone mentioned that to you. They hate the quality start thing. I can't remember in the post game chats, but there's someone that always fights you on that.
Yeah.
I think it's Grill. I want to say it's Grill, maybe, but I don't know. But that's always a topic, during the comments, what you can hear on the Todd Fox show. I grew up knowing with baseball because Physiok and Hudler would always talk about a quality start. Calvin Escobar had, or Jared Washburn had, or Ramon Ortiz had, or Bartolo Colon had. That's where I knew the quality start from. And when Joe Saunders came up, it seemed like, man, the quality of pitchers have gone down, and then the quality start, the numbers have risen up because of the launch angle and everybody trying to hit home runs. It seems like all the ERAs have gone up, so the quality start has inflated, let's just say. All right, for the Angels, coming up, their schedule, it will be Lou Gehrig Day, by the way, on Monday. But the Angels will go to shipping off to Boston for 3 games. 4:10 starts Monday and Tuesday, and then a 10:35 start Wednesday morning. So tea and crumpets or whatever people do for breakfast. They have Thursday off, and then the Angels come home. Yay. Friday, Saturday, Sunday against Seattle. First place Mariners, I believe. And Todd, is there a way people can get discounts for these games if they need tickets? You know where they can go?
I believe I have an idea, and you know what? Instead of me blabbing about it, why don't we just watch it?
Tired of paying service fees and taxes for tickets and concerts? Well, guess what? There's an alternative, and that is 714 Tickets. Yes, 714 Tickets is the price you see, is the price you get. Ron Holt has set up this website for you and for us as Halos in the Infield fans, and by putting in HITI in the promo code, you get 10% off of your purchase every time. Not just one time when you sign up, no, every time, and not just for the Angels, not just for the Dodgers, for basketball, football, hockey, and concerts. Use the 10% off HITI code as much as you want. Isn't that great? Plus, you get 5% more of savings off of your purchases for future purchase of tickets going forward. 714 Tickets is awesome because, again, the price you see is the price you get, and you don't pay all these crazy service fees and taxes. If it's $28, well, guess what? It's $28 plus the 10% off you get by using Halos in the Infield, HITI, at checkout. So what are you waiting for? 714 Tickets, 714 Tickets. Tell them Halos in the Infield sent you.
There you go.
that explained it all. I'm going to get mine. Get yours. 10% off and 5% off the rest of the way. Just start an account with them on Google or Microsoft, whatever search engine you use. Bing. Ask Jeeves isn't a thing anymore, I don't think.
No, it's not.
But yeah, definitely check out 714 Tickets for everything. If you're dying to go to the NBA Finals with OKC and Indiana, they'll have those tickets as well.
Yeah, you can probably get those.
I'll be watching. But let's get to some news and notes this week. Now, obviously, it was a tough weekend for Ellie De La Cruz, the supreme young shortstop for the Cincinnati Reds. He played with a heavy heart on Sunday after his sister died on Saturday. He got 2 hits on Sunday, including a home run, which was probably very emotional for him on Sunday. At Wrigley Field, they did lose 7-3 against Chicago, but they had a good weekend overall. But to play with a heavy heart, I mean, we remember, of course, when Nick Ahart died and how the Angels kind of rallied together and played hard the rest of the way and won the division. But Ellie De La Cruz, you talk about someone so young and having a sister die like that so young as well. Any thoughts about that?
Yeah, I just know from a couple other players I played with, losing family members. One lost his aunt that raised him, that I remember in high school, and then one in the minor leagues lost his dad. And I just remember there's really, like I've told a lot of people, man, with personal loss too, there's really nothing you can say. It's really, really hard to, in my opinion, to console somebody when they're in that mode. Other than, for me, I've always thought, hey, just listen to the person, and maybe ask them when they're feeling a little better to tell some stories that made them happy about that particular person, and give hugs, man. Hugs mean a lot. Any kind of emotional connection works. So yeah, I remember there was no dramatic thing that happened in the game where my friend pitched in the minors, but I do remember that he came in relief, and he got a strikeout. It was his only batter he faced, and I just remember he pretty much kept it together till he got to the dugout and almost collapsed with emotion. But that for him for De La Cruz to do what he did today, I know I saw the highlights. Him, players giving him hugs, and you could tell it was definitely on his mind.
And it was, by the way, a 2-run home run, and it was the 50th home run of his career for De La Cruz there with the Cincinnati Reds. He's only 23 years of age. He's the 5th youngest in Reds history to hit his 50th home run. It gave him a team high 12th home run for the Reds, they're trying to stay in it. We'll talk about more about that when we'll talk about the standings. Andrew McCutchen, speaking of home runs, he tied Roberto Clemente for 3rd place in Pittsburgh Pirate home run career totals. He's now tied with Clemente. Willie Pops Stargell had 475 with the Pirates. Ralph Kiner second with 301. So Andrew McCutchen, I don't know when he's going to retire, but he's pretty much, other from Paul Skeens, he's the only Pirate that I think really everyone knows. And he was there during the bad times when he started to get good last decade, and now they've fallen again. And we talked about it too, how this Pirates season has just been a disaster, literally on and off the field. And man, McCutchen's been through it all, seems like, even though he left for good 3 or 4 years to other teams. Whenever he's back with the Pirates, it feels good again. Any thoughts on that?
Yeah, he's always been one of my favorite players to keep an eye on. I love his style, the way he played, his long dreads, the way he gave back to the community back in the day. And he loves the city of Pittsburgh. And to your point, I don't know how many years he has left, maybe 1 or 2 more, but I would have to think that he would stay on in Pittsburgh to ride out the rest of his career, especially with the DH being there. He can still hit, a good 22. He reminds me of Torrey Hunter on the back end of his career.
Yeah.
A 260, 270 hitter with about 22 to 24 home runs and about 68 to 70 RBIs. And that's serviceable. He doesn't strike out much. He walks a lot. So, I think, and he could be a great mentor to what seemingly is a open revolving door to youngsters in Pittsburgh.
Definitely. Some injury news. Corbin Burns. Now, he left his start in the 5th inning early on Sunday with right elbow tightness. He'll get an MRI soon, but there was a reel about the way he was feeling. Right away, he pointed to the dugout. He said, "Come out," and that's always a horrible, horrible feeling.
Mm-hmm.
We've seen it a lot this year. In the same ballpark, Justin Steele had his injury for the Cubs, and he's been out the whole season. Corbin Burns did say to his manager, or I'm sorry, to the trainer and the manager, "My elbow's gone. It's dead."
Mm-hmm.
That just sounds awful. Now, I'm trying to remember, Max Scherzer in the 2021 playoffs against the Braves, he had what they called a dead arm.
Mm-hmm.
And he couldn't pitch anymore when they really, really traded for all those prospects and needed him, and he couldn't go. I'm fearful that Burns might be out the rest of the season. I don't know if that's the case, but when you hear "my elbow's gone, it's dead," what do you think?
Tommy John.
Mm-hmm.
But there is certain things they can do to prevent that or prolong it. Usually it's prolonging it because you're prolonging the inevitable. But there could be a chance he can get through this, and I'm hoping for the Diamondbacks' sake because this would really put a really, really dagger into their season. They need him. Burns is obviously a cog to that rotation. You can't lose an ace like that. So hoping for the best with him. I hate these kind of injuries, but the rate that these guys got to throw, and I think you're getting a lot of teams like the Angels overdoing it with, it's like they need to find a middle common ground where, okay, this is how much we're going to work out the pitchers. This is safe routine. This is a not safe routine. And call it down the middle and have that regimen for everybody, because we have some teams that just coddle their pitchers like the Angels, and some guys who work their pitchers and don't worry about going 4 or 5 days in a row.
It's just, what do you call it? An epidemic that's going around MLB. I think I talked about it at length, how many Tommy John surgeries have been needed for, 110% of the pitchers out there that have had it since 21. It's just an alarming. That's the reason I think Burns got all that money from Arizona. It was a shock that he got it from Arizona when they already had Jordan Montgomery, and he's just been off for the Diamondbacks this year. And the team has really fallen. They've fallen under 500 in 4th place now. They're lucky that the Rockies are right there, but we'll talk about that in a bit.
Well, here's my hot take real quick, if I could, James. One thing I forgot. I think a lot of these injuries have been because a lot of these pitchers don't do the things that kept them good in the offseason. A lot of them will just go to a luxury city and freaking or a resort. And I don't think these guys are putting in the time in the offseason. And you almost have to put in the time to not only just stay healthy, but you got to be having, you're at home. If you're making that kind of money, it doesn't cost too much to have your own little pitching area to where you can keep your arm loose. I think a lot of these guys aren't keeping their arm loose. And then when they get to pitchers and catchers reporting, they have to start going from 0 to 60 with all their weightlifting, with everything. And then once they get throwing harder and harder as the 2 weeks or 3 weeks till the regulars come in for spring training, that's when you start to see discomfort, inflammation, and then those catastrophic injuries.
There's academies out there that I've seen pitchers go to, and it's all over, social media. They make reels about this where they try to learn a new pitch. Mm-hmm. Like they try to get more sweeper on the sweeper, or more sink on a breaking ball, or more velocity somehow. And it leads up to these things happening, allegedly. Just something to think about.
Yeah, I mean, there's a lot of things to it. And then I'll put this one by you too, James. Do you ever hear of a pitcher going down with serious Tommy John that actually decides, hey, I'm going to play winter ball? I never see it. When they're pitching year round, these dudes, especially from the Dominican and other countries, they're fresh as a daisy, man.
It makes you wonder how Nolan Ryan all those years threw as fast as he did. I don't know, maybe because he didn't like try to reinvent himself with different pitches throughout the years. He just went with what he knew. Was he one of one where he could throw 100 at a certain age, no matter what? I know he had a curveball, but it was often wide. But it was just amazing up until his last season, and he pitched 24 years or something like that, and he never had a significant injury until then, in which he had to retire in '93, I think it was. Just amazing to think about, and now you'll never have another career like Nolan Ryan, where it's just longevity without an injury. MLB, by the way, will have their fifth straight Lou Gehrig Day on Monday. Now, the day will raise awareness for the ALS disease, or Lou Gehrig disease. Players, managers, and ups have already worn the number 4 patch on the left side of their jerseys. By the way, June 1st was the 100th anniversary for his famous consecutive game streak starting up, in which he played 2,130 games straight. They must have not had distractions like they have now back in the day in 1925. But just to think about that someone played that many games for that long, where maybe he played through injury, but it didn't matter. Like, people were built different back then. We remember his speech in 1936, basically having to retire from the Yankees because of the disease he had. I forget the famous words. Today I consider
myself the luckiest man on earth.
That's it, yeah. So it goes back to that. I'm sure you'll see that tribute on MLB Network and everywhere else. Anything on that, Todd?
Just the fact that, yeah, I mean, it was so new to the world that it got named after him, and he was a tremendous player. It's just sad the way he went out, but it's important that, I think, with all the causes that are brought up in sports now, which some debatable to others, it just, are not important, but get the raised awareness. I think this is one of them. ALS affects so many Americans and so many people around the world. Any kind of research for it, because it's one of those things they're not really close to curing it whatsoever. So yeah, it is nice to see the MLB to step up and take action with this one. And I have no problem with this kind of thing, because it is raising an awareness for, because a lot of fans have diseases that watch sports and baseball in general. And ALS is a debilitating thing over time. So it's tough, but I applaud the MLB for doing this.
Now, okay, this one is tricky. Darren Ruff, the former first baseman, I think he played not only for the Brewers, but he started off with the Phillies, Giants, Mets. He's suing the Cincinnati Reds. The reason he's seeking damages for the career-ending injury he had crashing into an uncovered tarp roller at Great American Ballpark in 2023. The lawsuit, filed Thursday in Hamilton County, Ohio, charges the Reds with negligence, claiming the organization failed to maintain safety standards. Ruff was playing first base. He went back on a ball toward the stands down the right field line in the third inning of the matchup, June 2nd, 2023. He sold out for a pop-out in foul territory when his knee collided with the end of the unpadded tarp roller. Sometimes, I know it's rare we'll see it at Angel Stadium, but you'll see the tarp, but there's the green cover on it. I think the Cubs still have the Reynolds wrap covers on the tarps whenever they have to bring that out. But you'll see that as the sponsor on the padded tarp. But Ruff complaints states that the collision led to permanent and substantial deformities to his knee. He was placed on a 60-game injured list, and he never played in the MLB again. Now, to me, Todd, I don't think he could win this, but there could have been a case where they left it unpadded because they were going to use it again, just in case rain was in the area. So they would say, hey, it was a precaution.
Mm-hmm.
I'm really wondering what's going to happen because, like we were talking before the show, I don't remember ever a player suing a league and winning unless it was, maybe the NCAA getting sued by Ed O'Bannon. And that's why you have all these college players making money. But other from that, in MLB, I can't remember a lawsuit against the team or anything like that where it was because of injury. So you got anything on this Darren Ruff lawsuit?
Just the fact that I believe, I've seen tarps, not to mention it, them have it, the guys on standby standing right by the tarp, when it's starting to drizzle. So, I mean, that's happened years over years, decades over decades. So this type of injury could have happened many times. So I don't think he has a good chance of winning this lawsuit because it's like one of those things where you can't always, make up or understand how you could slip and fall like Mo Vaughn did. He didn't sue the Angels, when they didn't have no his actions, his injury led to a railing, but there was no railing there for years until it happened to him. You remember, just to keep it with the Angels, a couple of years back, not Jared Walsh, Taylor Ward ran into the only place that had a concrete post in between the padding on the wall and like smashed his face. So freak stuff happens, man. And baseball is really weird at that, but stuff like this happens. And it's unfortunate what happened to him. But why wait so long to sue in the first place, number one? And number two, it's I don't think he's going to get nothing out of it, in my opinion. I think it's just a freak accident.
From the video I saw, too, it was sunny. It was a late afternoon, going to be evening as well. So it was, I don't think there was rain. There wasn't a grounds crew there, like waiting to start it up. So, but he's claiming that it's on the grounds crew. The reason he got hurt like that.
How many guys have you seen jump on the tarp, slip and fall backwards? How many guys crash into it? Yeah. So
Nolan Arenado would always do that.
Yeah, it's just to me, it's just an obstacle, man. I mean, to me, I don't know if you've seen it lately, the new thing with those nets that are up and down the left side and the right side, players crashing into that, getting stuck awkwardly. I mean, at some point, we're going to see someone, tear something, unfortunately, or break something because they're going to get stuck and their body weight is going to come down and their arm or their leg stuck in the net. So
that actually happened this year. Victor Robles of Seattle had a right field, down the right field corner in San Francisco. Mm-hmm. He tore, I think, something in his elbow or arm when it bent inside the net after he caught a foul ball. So that has happened this year. And I don't think he's been back with the Mariners so far this year.
Well, then there you go. I mean, that's if I was a lawyer, I'd point to that. A defense lawyer for the MLB, I'd be like, hey, look, it's unfortunate, this kind of stuff happens. It's part of the game. I mean, shoot, a fan can come out like those fans in Chicago years ago and beat the hell out of the first base coach for the Royals. Was that on the MLB? Maybe for security, but hey, it happened. You know what I mean? Like those part.
That happened twice because they went after an umpire as well.
Yeah.
Down that first base line. That was like 02 or 03 or something like that. Mm-hmm. Just there's so many dangerous, ways to get hurt. I can think of The Natural in that movie where a outfielder literally died, and this is all made up, of course, but died because he ran into the wall and, bumped his head and he died on the field. So you had to think that happened back then. There was no padding on the outfield wall. So obviously evolution has happened.
Mm-hmm. Well, I mean, you remember the follies they used to show at Anaheim Stadium when they'd say, "Hey, you got to obey the rules of the ushers," and they'd show like scenes from the Naked Gun. And there was a real baseball scene. I think it was in Texas when they had the plywood walls. They didn't have the freaking, they didn't have the padding, and the guy went to go make a catch and went right through the goddamn wooden wall.
Oh, that was the outfield one. I forget the dude's name. It was in Portland, and he was real famous after that. It was a minor league game, and he literally ran right through the wall. And I don't know if he made the catch or not.
Yeah, he did make the catch because he came out of the wood, stumbling, but he had the ball. Yeah.
No, okay. I'm thinking of the one in Pittsburgh against LA. It was at Three Rivers where somebody caught the ball, crashed into the blue wall, and he came out and he tried to throw the ball, but his arm was already gone or injured.
Oh,
I'm thinking of that one too.
Well, I'm telling you, from playing in some of those fields, and even if you were to go into Anaheim, there's a reason why it takes 3 security guards to open the fence for a reliever to come out. They're weighted pretty good, and that's not just the swinging door right there. I mean, it's pretty good padding on for the most part concrete.
The Yankees and Dodgers are playing, so that reminds me of when Aaron Judge literally broke the bullpen door of his team, I think, last year.
Mm-hmm.
Because of how big he was, but because that door was not as secure. And he got hurt off of this, by the way, too, last year.
Remember Justin Upton a couple of years back broke his toes or something like that, crashing into the bottom of the just kicking the bottom of the barrier, in the wall. So
it's weird that that still shows there the concrete all around the field there at Angel Stadium, but man, it's just the way that things are built. Let's say this. If you want memorabilia from any of the players we just mentioned, I don't know if there's a Darren Ruff autographed baseball, but I would not doubt it. Because the OC Dugout has just about everything that you could think of. Autographs, memorabilia, whatever the case is. They have signings that they sponsor, I believe. Todd, if you want to go more into that.
Yeah, there's a Logan O'Hoppe signing. I believe it's June 20th, so it is this month or something like that. We'll have more information on it, but you can go to ocdugout.com and check out all their latest signings. They had a Dennis Rodman not too long ago.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, we were there for Zach Neto. Zach Neto couldn't have been nicer over there at Rockin' Brews in Brea, or Buena Park. I'm sorry, I keep saying Brea. But yeah, they buy, sell, and trade memorabilia, sports, and they have everything, man. From bats to balls to gloves to pictures, everything. And it's not just Angels; they have every team you could think of. They have a wide variety, and they ship. So if you can't make it out to their store in Anaheim, they can ship by just seeing what they got over there on the ocdugout.com. And mention HITI, they might throw in a little something special for you.
Now, some other things I noticed, if you saw the Cleveland Angels series, you'll notice that the on-deck circles had the Uncrustable logos, and they were the sandwich all over the on-deck circle. I thought that was the coolest thing. I just got a 4-pack, I think, yesterday of the great ones. You can never go wrong.
Yeah, see, that's why me and you think alike, bro. I'm all team grape when it comes to the Uncrustables. I love those.
And that's like a player's choice in the MLB. You'll see the biggest players crush one of those or 2 of those at least. Hell yeah, protein and jelly. Rafael Furcal, by the way, he's 47 years old. That makes me feel old.
That does.
But last week, he's facing charges of aggravated battery with a deadly weapon and missile into dwelling, vehicle, building, or aircraft for an incident that happened a couple Mondays ago.
God damn. Was he using a rocket launcher or what?
I want to know more about this case. I don't know if we'll ever do that. But when I heard, I had to bring that up too because I loved watching him play with Atlanta or LA. I can't remember. I don't think I can't remember anywhere else he played, but he was always on TBS, or he was always on locally, and he was always one of my favorite infielders. NBC, by the way, is trying to get the MLB package that ESPN is losing, or not losing, but that MLB is pulling out of. So
they should have. ESPN really neglected them. But go ahead. Sorry.
No, that's fine. NBC, is getting the NBA and Amazon too. So it'd be interesting to see, because I thought TNT would get that, but CBS still has the Tuesday, and they have some of the playoff series as well. Going to be a lot of bouncing around for the television, pretty much in all sports going on. One more thing before we get to another sponsor in the standings. There was a fan obituary for a White Sox. And you remember how last year the White Sox lost 121 games? Mm. Okay, so the obituary goes, John, quote, Mac McDonald, aged 77, of Glen Ellen, I'm guessing Illinois. He passed away after a short illness on Wednesday evening, April 23rd, at home, surrounded by his family. He couldn't face another White Sox season after last year's record-breaking meltdown. And his picture has him in the whole 70s White Sox look, where they wore the pants too, where they wore the shorts. I mean, Bill Veeck had the team wearing shorts out there. I just thought that was a funny thing that, Chicagoans, they've been struggling with their teams as of late. And I mean, all of them. Bears, White Sox, Cubs, Blackhawks. Who am I missing?
Bulls.
Chicago, the Bulls. Not much the Sky, but
well, nobody cares about them right now.
Yeah. So I thought that was funny. Okay, so our last sponsor, a couple sponsors here. Now, is anything going on at Brewheim? You go there for drink specials. You mentioned HITI. Anything going on there, Todd? Any tailgates or parties that
we'll have some news by the next episode you have, but for the most part, right now I haven't checked in the June schedule, but we do have it's a nice spot to go to. A lot of good Angel beer there, and it's pretty. Some of their beers are pretty strong. Some of them are lightweight too, and they actually have non-alcoholic. So Brewheim is pretty good, and it's family friendly. There's a lot of board games. There's a lot of tic-tac-toe. They have a little bit of everything. Yeah. So come down, and the kids should have some fun right there. And Jenga, big time.
They had. Can you say Jenga like Gubaza would?
Jenga that have
Jenga. Okay, so they have Connect 4 there too as well. I noticed that. Yeah. When I had my third 15% alcohol beverage, I was going to play that, but we had to go to the game. Me and Rennie had to go to the game. So Underdog Fantasy. I haven't got into it yet.
Oh, we're not doing them no more. Forgot to.
Let me delete that. I'm gonna miss that video, the start of it, where Steve Lee's in there. Hey Ty, what you looking at?
Oh yeah, that's so cheesy. That was like 1980s. Hey, look at this.
Okay, let me delete that. So I don't. He'll read anything on the teleprompter that you put on there.
You're just like me. That's why I get myself in trouble on the lives, because then I'm just blowing through the comments as fast as I can, and then someone will say penis or something. I'm like, oh, damn it.
Oh wow! So the American League standings, will go to the West real quick. The Seattle Mariners, they're only a half game ahead on Houston. Houston did lose one of their pitchers to Tommy John, by the way. I think it was Blanco that is out. And I knew it was kind of like last year too. Remember, they lost 6 starters, I think, at one point. Yep. And they all came back almost, and they were able to win the division. Texas, it's funny. They've been up and down since Brett Boone has become their new hitting coach. So they're 4 out. Then you have the Angels 6 out, and then you have the A's 10 out. This West, man, I don't know how the hell it's going to end up. Do you trust Seattle to blow it again? Do you trust Houston to come back despite everyone they've lost? And will they get busy at the deadline somehow? Is Texas going to Power Ranger their way up? What the hell's going to happen here? But what do you think?
You did there.
Yeah.
I don't know. It's very hard to say because the Angels could go on an 8-game win streak like they did and not get any ground like they did, or they could go on an 8-game win streak and pick up 6 games. So it can happen, and I don't think this division's over by a long shot. And I'm not honking my honk. I'm not just putting it there for the Angels, but 4 of those 5 teams can win that division, and to me, it just comes down to consistency. And I think the Rangers are slightly worse than the Angels right now when it comes to overall offensive stats, and they've got just as many stars in that team or players that are just being given the wrong information. I think Texas is holding themselves back more than the league is holding them back, and I think the Angels are in that same boat. And until they fix it, Seattle and Houston are going to benefit because they seem to be teams that are more, even with injuries, have gotten things together. So I would say in the long run, somehow, some way, Houston would get it done. And I think Seattle would falter at the end. That would be my prediction.
By the way, in July, the Angels play Texas 7 games at home, a 4-game series at the beginning of the month, and 3 games at the end of the month. Mm-hmm. So we'll know about, and that's at the end of the month. They have Seattle and Texas, so we'll know a lot about the division by the end of July.
We got Seattle on this next homestand, don't we?
Yeah, and that too, among everything else. The AL East, we saw the Yankees come in, obviously sweep the Angels. The fans came in. There was a fight, but you weren't there. Kenley Jensen, I think, stopped his bullpen session to watch it all. Anyway, they lead the Toronto Blue Jays by 5.5. Toronto, surprisingly, is 3 games above 500, and the Rays are a game above 500, but they're 6 out. Boston has fallen. They used to be kind of where the Blue Jays were, but Bregman got hurt. I think they lost a starter recently as well. They're 8.5 out. And again, like we talked about, the Orioles are the most disappointing team in the MLB at 22-36, 14 games out. And Toronto, by the way, they're still 5.5 out, despite winning 5 in a row, and despite the Yankees losing 2 out of 3 in LA. Man, it seems like the Yankees, no matter what, no matter how many starters they lose, they'll power their way to winning the East, it seems like.
Yeah, it's kind of disappointing, really disappointing to see what happened to Baltimore, whether it's the pitching, the coaching staff, or whatever led to that. But they're 14 games out. Their season's effectively done, having to rally against the Yankees, Blue Jays. I don't put the Rays up there anymore, but they still are scrappy. I think Boston's very scrappy. So, yeah, the Yankees are the beast of the East right there.
The Rays, by the way, they had one hitter get ejected during an at-bat because he slightly tapped his helmet after a strike call went against him. So it was like the first ejection I saw where an umpire got offended by a player tapping his helmet, allegedly. Yeah. AL Central is basically the Tigers in first place, and then everybody else is 500 or above 500 except the White Sox at 18-41. Cleveland 6 out, Minnesota 7 out, and Kansas City 8 out. But Detroit, as I thought they would, I think I picked them to win the Central this year,
You
but
did.
they continue to be good. Tyreek Skubal, I think, had a complete game shutout last week as well. Cleveland's still powering their way like we saw against the Angels. With the White Sox, again, they're on pace to almost be as bad as they were last year at 18-41. But it's more of the same with the Central. I think you would agree with Detroit ruling everything.
Yeah, Detroit's a really, really good balanced team. Cleveland, like you said, with the power. Kansas City and Minnesota are those wild card teams where you could see them go on a run. I mean, Minnesota already went on a 10-game win streak this year to get themselves where they're at. They're a young team trying to mix in with a couple veterans, trying to find themselves. I think Kansas City is a little bit disappointing to me because I thought they'd be a little closer to Detroit because they do have some players in the up and up, but they don't play the same as they do at home as they do on the road. On the road, they have a losing record, and I think that's where it's got to change if they're going to want to get to that next level. I'm kind of rooting for them low key, but that division is pretty interesting.
In the National League, the NL East, the Mets just got back first place over Philadelphia. Their one game back is Philadelphia. Washington now 9 games back of first place in third place. Now, it seemed like when we talked 2 weeks ago, the Atlanta Braves were above 500 and everything was back where they should be.
Mm-hmm.
But that hasn't been the case. Crochet had a great outing against Atlanta today. They win. Boston won the game 3-1 in Atlanta. Atlanta's 4 games under 500, 9.5 out. And, of course, you have the Marlins at 23-34, 13 games out. It feels like it's a 2-team race with the Mets and the Phillies this year in the NL East.
It does, but from years past, I can't count out the Braves, and we've seen them start out they were 0-9 this year, and to get to where they were. So they're a very up and down team, the epitome of it. Again, their road record is terrible. It's 10-20. They're much better at home, so I wouldn't count them out yet. So I like where the Nationals are going. They're a little scrappy team, but for right now, it's 2-team race. But I wouldn't look down on the Braves as much because they can easily get hot again.
Can we just get rid of the Florida Marlins or the Miami Marlins? We don't need them.
Next show, I want to talk about that if we can, if you have me on again, because there's a lot of rumblings about an Orlando team, so they might get Tampa, and then I know Florida's got the new stadium, but come on, man. I mean, no, outside of college and NASCAR, the state of Florida doesn't really, support major teams.
The only time I've seen Marlins Park full was the WBC, and then the Savannah Bananas came there as well to sell out that place. By the way, Savannah Bananas were at the Big A, I think, on Friday. There were appearances and Saturday. Wow. There was Troy Gloss and John Lackey, I think, that came by to play in there. And that crowd was at capacity, literally capacity. Finally, a big league baseball team played baseball this year at the Big A. And it was Savannah Bananas.
But you know what, too? They had the crowd going. They were doing banana chants. I mean, I heard from several people, James, that were saying they haven't heard Angel Stadium that loud since the 0-2 run.
That's just sad.
Yeah.
It's great at the same time, but it's like, ugh.
Well, maybe we can replace the Marlins with the Bananas.
I would not fight that. We'll get to that pretty soon. NL Central, the Cubs, steady. 37-22. They lead St. Louis. It's almost like the old days where it's the Cubs and the Cardinals going back and forth. I like this. It's like when Pujols was there and Derek Lee. It was La Russa versus Dusty Baker. Anyway, St. Louis is only 4 out. Milwaukee 5.5 out. And I was almost like Kansas City this year. I was hoping Cincinnati would be doing a little better. They're 2 under 500, 8.5 out. And then Pittsburgh, man, 22-38, 15.5 out. It just seems like nothing's going to work this year. And again, like we talked about before, Paul Skeens, he's going to get the pressure to won his way out, maybe after the 3rd or 4th season. Man, the NL Central, there's a lot to dissect here, but I'm amazed the Cubs, even without their main starter out for the whole season, Justin Steele, they've been able to just score, I think, more. Pete Crow Armstrong has been amazing. He's one of those young players that are very dynamic. Kyle Tucker's there, and he's playing in a contract year, so he's trying to ball out. But I'm so surprised St. Louis, because we heard about them losing their cardinal way, that maybe it's just been a lucky couple of years to even be competing.
Yeah, they're the type of team that I wasn't thinking they were going to be in the mix as much. I actually thought you were going to see St. Louis in fourth place, Cincinnati possibly second, because I felt Milwaukee lost a lot. Yep. And for them to be where they're at, they're kind of lucky at this point. They've won 7 straight. But Chicago's been bashing their way. Their offense, like you said, the perfect word for it's dynamic. They have a 97-plus differential. And so, yeah, there's been a little and it's weird because when we saw the Cardinals earlier in the year, the fans were revolting, not going to games. And the offense for the Cardinals was putrid. So, I was thinking, man, they're going to have a long season.
It's a long way from where they want to be. And the whole cloud around, are they going to trade Nolan Arenado or are they not going to? It's just hanging over them, but they're playing good baseball despite being that young. NL West, of course, ruled by the Dodgers, but only by 2 games. Second place is San Diego. San Francisco is held at bay 3 games below the Dodgers. Now, Arizona 3 games under. They did win today, but they're 8 out. They're one team. And again, losing Corbin Burns for how long? We'll find out after his MRI. It just seems like they've fallen the last week or so. But no one, and I mean no one, beats whatever Chevrolet. Colorado has lost 8 in a row. They're 27 games out of first place at 9-50. It's the worst start of any team's first 59 games. I don't know why they can't round that to 60, but they're 9-50, and it's more of the same, like we talked about, I think, a couple shows before, where the Rockies, it's just from ownership down, a lot of stuff has gone wrong, where they fired the hitting coach, they fired the manager, but Chris Bryant hasn't come back from his diabolical back injury. We probably won't see him again this year. They just have a bunch of players that are very young and not known. They're selling jerseys of Brendan Rodgers at their shops at Coors Field, but he plays for the Astros. I don't think I've ever seen that. But a lot is wrong, and their City Connects suck, by the way. A lot is wrong with the Rockies, but the Dodgers, after taking 2 out of 3, pounding the Yankees Saturday 18-2, by the way. Ohtani was seen sleeping in the dugout for a little bit during that blowout. But I'm kind of surprised with the Padres and all the problems that they've had. If you follow Hacksaw, and which I love how you guys talk to him every month or so, he'll mention the Padre problems, and they come down to pitcher injuries. They come down to their offense kind of struggling, but they picked it up, I think, as of late. But it's more of the same of the Dodgers, just powering through all those pitchers that are injured. They have a laundry list. CVS receipt list of pitchers injured.
Yeah, it's unfortunate for the rest of the league, but fortunate for them that they have that much depth to just keep plucking another pitcher in, or if they had to make a trade, dump a guy, and you have a all-star in the making from the freaking minors to pull up. So they'll be fine. No crying for a world champion for sure, and then also no crying for an organization that defers all their money. We could talk about that for I would look at it this way: the Padres are lucky to be where they're at. If the Dodgers had full strength, they'd probably only have about 11 losses right now. So we'll have to see how the season goes on. I'm just hoping chemistry gets messed up and the Dodgers fade, but I'm not going to hold my breath on that. And as far as the Rockies are concerned, my God, I've never seen, bro, like I've maybe seen this at the end of the season in all 162 when they're played, a plus minus that bad. Like I've seen it like at 213 one time. And that's at the end of the season. We're talking historic levels where, get this, bro, they've scored as a team 184 runs, right? Total 184. They are minus 185. So, I mean, good God, they're getting doubled up in runs scored. I've never seen anything like it.
The second lowest run differential is the Athletics at minus 110 or negative 110, by the way.
And that would be really bad in a normal season without the Rockies, to be honest.
Yeah. I think the Orioles were at minus 79. Speaking of Orioles, I'm going to say this. Cedric Mullins is out, I think, on the 15-day IL. But I think the Dodgers go out and trade for him. They need an outfielder. Mookie Betts has been out for a little bit. I know he's a second baseman now, or shortstop. He's an infielder now. Anyway, but they need an outfielder. So I'm going to say that happens. That'll be a hot take for another day. Well, we're minus a sponsor, but we weren't minus Around the League show. Thank you, Todd Fox, for coming on. Any final thoughts?
No, I think if you're still on the show right now watching, we appreciate
Thank you.
Yes, absolutely. And I love the Around the League show with James. You do a fantastic job. So anytime you can have me on your show, I will definitely come on.
Thank you. Yeah, I'm going to hopefully be here. Mondays, unless, Joe comes back, give him that spot back. But we're thinking of him, of course. And we'll see you next time on the 13th episode of Around the League show. This has been the 12th. Thank you to all the sponsors, and follow HITI on all the social platforms. We'll see you next time.